Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you enjoy these videos, please click like and subscribe, and if you click the little bell, you will be notified every time I upload a video. What happened to the 9 hikers that went missing in Russia's Ural Mountains? This is going to be mind-blowing for you guys who are not familiar with this. So, researchers discovered that their tent had been sliced open from the inside. The hikers' bodies were frozen and many were half naked or barefoot in the snow. 2 were missing their eyes, another's tongue had been ripped out, and radioactivity was detected on their clothing. What happened at Dyatlov Pass? The telegram was overdue. Igor Dyatlov, who was leading a group of skiers and hikers on a planned 16-day expedition, told his friend that he would send word when they had arrived safely in the Russian village of Vizay. But the expected arrival date, February 12, 1959, came and went with no telegram. Worry set in. The hikers, mostly students in their 20s from Ural Polytechnic Institute, had been filled with high hopes and a strong sense of camaraderie at the start of their planned 200-mile skiing expedition on January 27th. They had ridden 2 trains, a truck, a bus, and a sled from Svedrils. I'm not sure how to pronounce these cities, so excuse my mutilation of that word, and they were ready for the outdoors. The group started out as 10, 8 men and 2 women, all highly experienced in cold weather activities. Upon the completion of this challenging trek, they were to have received their Class 3 certification, the country's top level in mountaineering at the time. They encountered a problem just 3 days in, however, when one man, Yuri Yudin, had to turn back after suffering severe joint pain. Temperatures in the area were frigid, by some estimates as low as minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. By February 1st, the remaining 9 hikers were slightly off course when they pitched their tent on a mild slope of Kholat Syakhl. 48 hours later, all would be dead. A search party discovered the group's campsite in late February, and the scene was grisly. The hikers' large canvas tent had been slashed open from the inside. 5 bodies, including that of 23-year-old Dyatlov, were found downhill from the tent, some of them shoeless and half-naked, stripped down to underwear. Evidence of a small fire was near the edge of the woods. The remaining 4 hikers were discovered 2 months later at the bottom of a ravine and under 4 feet of snow. These bodies were fully dressed and seemed to be wearing clothing torn from the others. Kholat Syakhl means dead mountain in the local Mansi language, and some of the corpses found there seemed to be straight out of a horror movie. One had a missing tongue, another no eyeballs. 3 of the bodies showed signs of fatal trauma, with a cracked skull and 2 chest fractures, but no obvious external injuries. Evidence of radioactivity was found on some of the hikers' clothes. This was another picture that was taken of them, and this is the last known picture of them alive. The last known picture of them alive. So the last detail is what really got people's attention. The radioactive traces challenge the idea that a purely natural event happened, says Dmitry Kurikin, PhD, the director of the Laboratory for Cultural Sociology and Anthropology of Education at the Higher School of Economics in Moscow. And then you start to think that those traces must be an important thing about the whole story, and that's how the fascination grows. People get obsessed with the weirdest thing and build their theories around that. 60 years later, this mystery has come to be known as the Dyatlov Pass incident, continues to capture imaginations. The strangest thing about this case is its resonance, said Dr. Kirikin, who wrote an academic paper about the Dyatlov Pass and the sociology of the mysteries. Dozens of theories have been offered for what happened that night: a hurricane, poisoning, a Yeti encounter, local tribesmen, weapons testing, UFOs, murder at the hand of American spies, with no solid evidence pointing to any one theory. The Russian government reopened the case early in 2019 to try to put an end to the speculation. The results, originally scheduled to be released in August, were delayed. The effect of the mystery at Dyatlov case is compounded by a rare balance in the plausibility of all competing versions, said Dr. Kirikin. There's no single version free from inconvenient facts. So this is where we can kind of turn to the tarot cards and ask what is going on or what happened on that fateful night. All right. Now, first thing I'm going to do is just leave it open-ended and ask the cards what happened on that fateful night. And I'm going to turn on a light so we can see the cards just a little better. Because it suddenly got dark while I was recording. Sorry for that interruption. So what we have here, look at this, fire. So there was radiation found on some of their clothing, and this is interesting. She's walking and there's fire on both sides. Now this is the Haunted House Tarot, so we're going to pull a few more, and then we're going to go to a regular deck, and because this is how I like to get insights, I like to use multiple decks. So there was definitely violence, violence, and there's trauma to some of the bodies. So there seemed to be an attack of some kind. There was definitely an attack on them. Okay, and it could have been fighting. There was only 2 women, but it could have been something going on with a woman. I have to pay attention to the woman. And there's like a plot. It's the Angel of Death, and that's a compound of some kind. This is a compound of some kind. This just has a culty feeling to me, like organized, like some kind of organization. And I'm going to ask my regular Robin Wood deck, were these people murdered by other human beings? Were these people murdered by other human beings? Deception, and it's pointing up to the sky. The moon is deception, and it's pointing up to the sky. I'm going to grab my UFO deck. Were there extraterrestrials involved in this event at all? Were there extraterrestrials involved in this event at all? Now, you have to remember that this is the UFO deck, so it's going to have extraterrestrials in pretty much every card. So, we can't rely on that card. So then what I always do is pull from one of my other decks to confirm. Because the normal tarot does not have an extraterrestrial deck, but we can pull a confirmation card. Was some spacecraft, it doesn't even have to be extraterrestrials, because who knows what Russia had for flying crafts back then, 1959? I don't know. But let's just see what the regular Robin Wood has to say for a confirmation card on if something extraterrestrial was involved in their deaths. And here we have it. This is confirmation. So this would be about the only card in the tarot card where there's half of this card is missing. Something flying in the air, something flying in the air. There was definitely something flying in the air. So this tarot card has no people in it, flying in the air. So we're going to go back to the UFO deck, because that just confirmed that there was something strange about this encounter. What did they want? What did they want with these people? this is interesting card. I have to look at this a little bit closer. They believed that the humans, is he holding a key? I think that's some object in his hand. And of course, they're protected from the radiation. They're in full bodysuit and the people aren't. So whoever did the attack was in protective suit, and they had something in their hand that might have caused radiation. They might have shot radiation at them, or some tool that had radiation in it. Because they were hiking in an area that was a hot spot for this type of activity. So it's almost like it was a landing strip, like they came across something they shouldn't have. It's almost like they came across something that they shouldn't have. See, they came across it. They should not have come across that. So they had to be taken out. So that's either some kind of a landing strip for these. Oh man, yeah, for sure. This is kind of validating. So they came across something that they shouldn't have come across, and it was they didn't take them. Okay, so they didn't take them up in the ship because the bodies were found, but they had to make sure that there was no survivors. So the beings came down out of a ship. They came down out of a ship. This is fascinating. They were so strange looking. This is like pointing the cross, like they were praying. Like the people, these young students were literally praying because they didn't recognize these beings, and they created quite like a yellow smoke or a yellow smoldering, but they were so far from human looking that this is like praying. This is putting all your religious beliefs because you don't have an explanation for what you're seeing and what you're going through. So this is like a last ditch effort of prayer, holding the cross up, doing anything to try to stop this attack. And so they wanted certain pieces, and this is why they took, I think, the tongues and the eyes in a few, because they just needed very few of the parts. They didn't need all of the parts. So that's a little strange that they did that. And then once again, this card verifies a landing strip. I think they came across, let's just put these cards together. I think they came across a place where crafts land. That's what I think they came across. Right there. And I think it was wrong timing, because I think the place is very secluded, very hidden, but there's crafts that land there, and this is definitely paranormal. So then I go back to my regular deck, and I'm going to ask one of the hikers if they can come through and indicate what their thoughts are of what happened. Igor, I guess, maybe was one of them. Maybe we could try to call in, let's see, who led the pass. It was, Igor. This is so strange. Igor Dyatlov, who was leading a group of skiers. So we're going to try to call him in. So he's like, we had packed, our meager items, and we're hiking in the mountains. We were packing our belongings. We couldn't take much. We couldn't take much for provisions, and we were hiking. Oh, he's showing the barefoot. Some of them were found barefoot. Oh, Jesus. This is getting really realistic. The cards are portraying something very weird. So the group got along. So he wants to know that in that fighting in the beginning cards, that was not fighting amongst the group. The group all got along. So he's wanting to tell me, hey, we all got along. So that battle in the beginning was the battle for our life against some foreign, he's just calling it like a foreign entity. And he said, but we all got along. Okay, so there was a battle, but it was not fought amongst themselves. And remember how I said that I felt like there was some woman in the beginning here? See her? She shows up again here. And she's sitting. She's sitting at the edge of something. And this is very weird. So I think what happened was they were taking a rest and this light shone on them, and almost a blinding light. This is what I think is happening. They were taking a rest and a blinding light came and was shining in their faces. And they were murdered. They were murdered. And they literally walked out of their bodies. That's very weird. Oh my gosh. This is very tragic. So I have another question, but I don't know how the cards are going to answer this. So Igor, were these extraterrestrial or human? So I'm going to grab a deck that I usually don't use, and I'm going to just see if I can figure it out from this other deck. Here's the back of the deck. Arcanum, I believe it is. All right. Were these extraterrestrial beings that they fought? Yeah, Two of Wands. Two of Wands is a spirit card. Oh, from another planet. Look at the strange planet. You can't make this. I gotta say shit. I'm sorry, but you can't make this shit up. There's a planet floating in this card, and I just felt like I had to use this other deck, folks. They had an encounter with extraterrestrials. This is what happened. They encountered a landing pad where UFOs were landing, and they had to be taken out. And they were taken out, very violently taken out. They fought valiantly for their lives. So now I have to ask Igor, on the other side, are you aware of extraterrestrials now that you're on the other side? Are you aware of extraterrestrials while you are on the other side? He's not going to disclose that right now. He is like, this is the cloak for hidden. And he said there's otherworldly beings. He's going to acknowledge that, but he doesn't really, this is hidden. He doesn't really want to shine a light on that right now. For some reason, he feels it's not appropriate, and I'm going to go with that. I'm always going to go with that. So yes, this was paranormal. Yes, they had an encounter with extraterrestrials. It was sad and tragic that they came across the wrong place at the wrong time, at the wrong timing, and it ended up being the end of all of their precious lives. So, wow, I did not really expect this to take a turn in this direction, but this was one of the most fascinating readings I think that I've ever encountered. At one point when I purchased this UFO deck, I wasn't going to use it. I was not going to use it because I thought, what am I going to use a UFO deck for? Well, guess what? Came in handy in this reading. So thank you all for joining me.